Greetings, friends. I'm delighted to have this time, this opportunity to share with you some of the richness of Evangelii Gaudium, the joy of the gospel by Pope Francis. I feel a real sense of adventure, even of excitement as I prepare this teaching, because it brings again to my memory, to my mind, such a gift we have in this apostolic exhortation. He shows such an understanding of our place as Christian people in our world today, what it means to be a follower of Jesus, allowing ourselves to be changed by him, to be made new, to encounter him. And then from that encounter, that we are being sent. Everyone who professes Christ and have known him are sent to bring good news to the others and to build up God's kingdom. And thirdly, and central to Evangelii Gaudium, the joy of the gospel, is that we are all called to create a culture of life and of faith. And these themes will be recurring and recurring during the few times that I will be speaking to you. We begin with a moment of silence, a moment of personal reflection. Aware of Jesus, where two or three come together in my name, I am there in the midst of them. Among you, with you, with each other. Trusting in his guidance and in his wisdom for the months and the years ahead. I've chosen Matthew chapter 16 verses 13 to 20 as our reflection this evening, because it speaks about that encounter of Jesus with his followers, with his apostles, and the response of Peter. Jesus asking, "Who do you say I am?" And Jesus replying and answering. But the answer, the reply, the response of Jesus was interesting. "Peter, you are blessed. You are blessed. It was not flesh and blood that revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven." And then he gives him responsibility. Very much that encounter with Christ runs right through the joy of the gospel. And Pope Francis begins with it. He says, "The joy of the gospel fills the hearts and lives of all who encounter Jesus," his opening words. And this changes us, changes people. It fills us. It frees us from sorrow, inner emptiness and loneliness. He says that with Christ, joy is constantly born anew. And that's the center of what he's saying. We are being born anew, and we're being born again to a new joy. And when we experience this joy, his hope is that a new chapter of evangelization marked by his joy will be undertaken. He says, yes, there are difficulties in life. There are questions. There are times when life impinges in a very difficult way. But he goes on to say, that should not curb our joy. The Lord does not disappoint those who take this risk, the risk of encountering him. And remember that Pope Francis is calling all Christians at this very moment, he says, to a renewed personal encounter with Jesus Christ, or at least an openness to letting him encounter them. And as we make that small gesture towards Jesus, as we try to hear his question, "Who do you say I am?" He is listening embracing us, taking us. And in the words of Pope Francis, he says, God never tires of forgiving us. We're the ones who tire of seeking his mercy. God never gets tired of listening to our pleas for mercy, for help. He says, joy has always been a feature in our faith. It has been there through the times of scriptures. It has been there for the early apostles when they're described as wherever the disciples went, there was great joy. But sometimes something happens to those who profess to be followers of Christ, and he describes them. There are Christians whose lives seem like Lent without Easter. He says that's okay. There are difficulties. But at the end of the day, when everything is said and done, we are infinitely loved. We are infinitely loved. He's taking us back to us being infinitely loved. He says, God's mercies never come to an end. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. They are new every morning. Great is his faithfulness. And as we set out on a new chapter for us of evangelization, that's the first theme, the first thought that Pope Francis pitches before us. Who do you say I am? Are we indeed rooted in love, in his love for us? Are we opening our lives to experience the newness that he wishes to give? And for Pope Francis, this is what actually makes us human. I'll read. We become fully human when we become more than human, when we let God bring us beyond ourselves in order to attain the fullest truth of our being. That's perhaps a new conviction for us. Yes, we know it somewhere in our heads, but deep down in our gut level, is Christ the one who makes us truly happy, truly fulfilled, give us true joy? Because that's important, and he says the importance of this is in the following: For if we have received the joy which restores meaning to our lives, how can we fail to share that love with others? We're setting out together. Our first step is hearing that question, who do you say I am? And letting ourselves again be encountered by him. And he will take us towards joy and towards sharing his love with others. As we set out, we're not going alone. He guides us. He points the way. And Pope Francis also says the important thing is not to walk alone, but to rely on each other as brothers and sisters. So now we're heading off together on a new journey, a new venture, a new exploration of the meaning of evangelization and Jesus encountering us. So I suggest a number of things. That during this coming week, that you sit with the question, whom do you say I am? Listen to his voice. And listen to what Pope Francis says. Who do you say I am? Take time to ask the Spirit of God to lead us into the deepest spirit of ourselves, the deepest part of ourselves, where we can truly answer the question for ourselves. Let each of us experience a new encounter with Christ, a new sense of what it means to be a witness to Christ today. But remember, the beginning is, in the words of St. Paul, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. God bless.